Welcome back to Minecraft Wealth Building, the weekly series where I talk about everything personal finance without going block by block in this Minecraft world. Over the months and years, we'll see this world grow and prosper, and in the meantime, so will our wallets and our balance sheets and our investments. It's kind of a real life representation of what I'm talking about. This week, I want to reminisce a little bit on the AWM Financial Newsletter. And the 1,000 subscriber milestone that I just hit, which has been a long time coming and been very exciting. But before that, I got to start building out this base. We got to get some infrastructure here, a wall for security, and a little bit of a farm as well. Because, dying from a lack of food is suboptimal. We do not want to die. But basically, the story of how I started the newsletter was about July of 2025. I was at my grandparents' lake house in Massachusetts, just bumming around, you know how it is, not really doing anything, and I actually wanted to take a train to Boston, see if I could make it all the way to Boston from the lake house, which was about 3 hours west of Boston, and I wanted to record it somehow, so I actually did a little write-up, got some help from ChatGPT, because back in those days I was not as confident of a writer, and got a little write-up going. That's the first thing on the newsletter. I haven't deleted it or anything. It's my little write-up about how I made it from little old Orange, Massachusetts, all the way to Boston, Massachusetts, and only by bus and train, and that was fun. And I've had a lot of experience writing about personal finance. I wrote for my student newspaper in high school, and I had done some writing projects for classes. I actually wrote the first big thing I wrote was about the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank in 2023 for my English class, and that was really interesting and fun. We had this teacher, shout out Miss Lucas, who we had to do these little write-ups every week, and they were actually kind of frustrating to do because it was a lot of writing, but I learned a lot. It was kind of like a boot camp with all the stuff we were doing, but I realized that if I could write about finance, I'd have a lot more fun. So that was really the starting point, and I got to build a bit of a habit from that, where I got to write and learn from that, the Silicon Valley Bank stuff. That was an interesting story. It's also on the newsletter, but I'll circle back around to that. But going back to the starting of the newsletter back in July of last year, it was an idea that I've been wanting to do for a long time, is have a way to convey all the thoughts I had about personal finance, and to be able to officially educate and talk about and write about all the things that I already yapped a bunch about to my friends and family. And I knew that people around me were getting a little bit tired of my constant explanations about taxes or investments or stocks or whatever else. And it was nice to have an outlet to be able to talk about those things and not bother everyone around me with a constant feed of information. But yeah, the first article I wrote was actually inspired by a visit to a cafe in New Hampshire, and I saw a sign that they had about credit card fees, and I said, you know what, that is an interesting topic that I myself am interested by, so I think I'll write about it, and that's how we got there. So that was a good experience, and ever since then, that was my first series that I worked on. I call it the Spend and Save series. So I really wanted to talk about income investing, which is, looking back, way too advanced of a topic to be writing about beginner-wise. I look back at some of my first articles like, what was I doing? Those were not good. There's some articles about covered calls and collateralized debt obligations and all sorts of stuff that is just way too advanced for most people who would have ever been reading those. And I honestly have learned a lot since then too, so I didn't even fully know what I was talking about. I knew enough, but not as much as I would have liked to, especially considering the complexity of the topic. But I do plan to revisit a lot of those things eventually, but with more depth and with more knowledge. But yeah, so the first series, I call it Spend and Save. It was 10 parts. It was pretty solid. I'm very happy with how it turned out. There's a lot of things that I look back and I was like, okay, that was not necessarily the best decision. Just writing wise and creativity wise, some of the titles were not very good, but of course that's how it goes, right? That is the nature of things. You have to learn, you have to kind of slowly get better, and I realized early on that I didn't want to do the newsletter for 2 weeks or even 2 months and then call it quits, right? A lot of the time people do content creation, and I hate even thinking of it like that because it's really not. But any sort of creative project, and they do it a little bit because they have a lot of creative energy, and then they quit early on because that's just how it goes sometimes, right? You get unfocused and you get distracted by something else, and yeah, that's how it goes. So I actually ended up writing 4 full articles before even getting the first one published. So I waited a little bit. I wanted to be careful not to try and start publishing and then not be able to match the cadence, the frequency of publishing. So and I really learned that because previously I had a podcast when I was 16 called 16 Going on 60. It's still public, unfortunately. I'm just kidding. It's pretty funny, but talking about, of course, personal finance. And in doing so, I made it through about 3 episodes before I called it quits because I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't see any growth, of course, after 3 episodes, and I was unmotivated. So I realized ever since then that before I do a big project, I should try to focus on trying to not really care about the numbers or the growth until later. So with the newsletter, I actually wrote 4 articles before I even published the first one, just to really prove to myself that it was possible, to be able to say to myself, hey, this is something that I can do sustainably. This is something I can do consistently. And so that is how I got started. And then by mid-September, I've been going on for a couple weeks, got to, I think, 50 subscribers. I remember that being very cool because that's a lot of people. I mean, can you imagine 50 people coming to a room to hear you talk or present something? And that's many people who got to hear me say my two cents every week on the newsletter. So the first series, the Spend and Save series, was about 600 words per article, 400 to 600 words. Not a lot, nothing crazy, something that I knew I could do every week. And in that same level of consistency, I published every Sunday at 3 p.m. I still do that. It's still my baseline articles are every Sunday at 3 p.m. And I think it's very important to be consistent because people want to be able to trust you, but they can't trust you if you are not super consistent. And so you got to be careful not to break up that rhythm. There's definitely been times where I've been close to having to do it, where it's been a Sunday morning or a Saturday afternoon and I'm struggling to write. But most of the time, I usually have a couple weeks of stuff prepared so that I don't have to worry about it. So I still write at least 1 article per week. Well, now it's about 2, but 1 Sunday released article per week. But I have those multiple weeks in advance now, so that's really a burden off of my back because I can focus on the creativity part of it instead of the production part of it. So that's very helpful. And so going back to about September, I was getting better with my writing, and I kind of increased the frequency as to how much I was writing to a higher rate of about, let's see, I think I started doing Wednesday at 3 p.m. I still do that, of course, as well. And Wednesday at 3 p.m. for me was originally what I called vault articles. So I wanted articles that I could re-release that were older, right? That were from the past, either from my high school newspaper days or something like that, which was just me kind of being able to share some older articles, nothing crazy, just trying to have something to kind of fill in the gap there. But it was good. It was very good, and I enjoyed doing those. The first one was a multi-part series on the Silicon Valley Bank collapse. So I said I'd get back to that, and that's kind of how that started. And that was a good series to do. Definitely not my best writing of all time, but I was very proud of it when I was doing it, of course. So that was fun. And then I got to do some historical articles, some stuff I had done about the minimum wage in North Carolina, some other just random things. But it wasn't anything crazy, of course. Just me kind of sharing some of my high school publications. And it was fun. That's kind of how I got started with that. And then around November 2025, I realized that I could probably, I was confident enough in my ability of writing that I could do multiple per week of original content. So I started what I call the Watchtower Wednesday series, and I have been alerted that is a Mormon series since then, which I did not know about. I'm not Mormon, but I am of course Christian. So I started that series to really focus on spiritual reflections and the mindset side of growing up and wisdom and wealth, because simply being able to get money is actually very easy. Like especially if you just want to put away your morals, right? If you're just like, I don't care about my morals or anybody, I could go sell courses online. I could go sell how to be a millionaire courses. You can go do sales. I've done sales in the past that, like, if you didn't have morals, you could very, very easily just make a ton of money really quick. And obviously that is not morally sound, nor is it actually going to be sustainable for the long run. But it feels easy early on, so a lot of people do resort to that. But anyway, I digress on that. The point I was trying to make is that, so I wanted to do more spiritual reflection and more of that kind of writing. Just I had a lot of thoughts and decided it was time to do something like that, and that was fun. The other series I started in early January was what I call the Capital Record, and that is a more in-depth series where I really just focus on some more of my personal finances, looking at my own portfolio, my own trades, and kind of doing some more individual stock analysis. So I don't ever recommend to anyone that they should do individual stock investing or trading, but I really enjoy reading company 10Ks and 10Qs and quarterly reports, and so I share what I research and what I learn on there. The first stock I ever released a full report on was FactSet Research Systems, which today, June 1st, was actually up over 10%, which was very interesting. Not on any substantial news, but still interesting nonetheless. We'll see how that plays out in the future. But it was very fun for me to be able to have an outlet to release some information about the individual companies that I was researching, and that was of course very fun. And so I've continued doing that, and I have multiple companies on my coverage list now. So Main Street Capital Corporation, Realty Income Corporation, Berkshire Hathaway, Vichy Properties, and FactSet Research Systems, of course. And that'll continue to grow in the future, but I don't want to have too many companies where I can't really cover them all, but I still cover them on the Capital Record from my analysis to just recent updates for the companies. But nonetheless, that's one of the third series that I kind of did on the newsletter. And by then, I think I had about 500 subscribers, which was a lot of growth. And my big goal for 2026 going into it was reaching 1,000 by the end of the year. Of course, I reached that before halfway through the year, which is very encouraging, of course. So that's an exciting milestone. But some of the other series I've been able to do is the monthly digest series, and that's been really fun to be able to do. Just having a quick bite of a lot of the content that we're producing at AWM Financial. So from the podcast to the articles to the second newsletter, being able to have quick links to talk about those things are very helpful now that we've reached a scale where we have a lot of content going out. So that's fun. And then the monthly macro economic recap has been very good as well. That actually originally started because I was named editor for the Investment Club newsletter at UNC Charlotte, which is a rather large club on campus. We have about 150 members, and I am on the leadership team, but I was given the responsibility of writing the monthly newsletter. And in doing that, I needed to do a macroeconomic summary. So how did the stock market do? How did the S&P 500 do? How was GDP growth or inflation or other economic updates? And I did that for the first month, the January update. And by the February update, I realized, hey, I can actually take this and turn this into a newsletter piece. And I got permission to do that. And it's been gravy ever since. And that's been really helpful just because, of course, I like releasing more content when I can. And I think it's a good value to my readers and to the club. And I put a little bit more of my own personal analysis in the newsletter released version, where I can kind of talk about, okay, here's my thoughts on the month. I don't think it's good to focus on, day to day or month to month stock market movements, but there can be some valuable insights learned So it's important not to just ignore it completely, but you shouldn't let it drive your decision making or your emotions, of course. Some months like April are up 12%, or like May up 6%. And that happens. When that kind of thing happens, it's great. We're all very excited. Yay, we're making money. All the investors are making money. But then you have months where you lose a lot of money, and you got to be prepared for that emotionally and not sell or buy based on month-to-month moves. It's more important to be in the market for longer than to try and time it, as the saying goes. But that takes us to the last couple months of the newsletter. We've seen a lot of growth, mostly due to more recommendations from other Substackers. That's a really big part of the Substack ecosystem, is being able to recommend other writers and then them send their subscribers over to you, and that's been very helpful in growing the brand and the newsletter. And yeah, we just kind of slowly crept up, had some better weeks, had some worse weeks, and eventually got to that 1,000 reader or subscriber number, and that's incredible. I feel very, very successful. I cannot even imagine 1,000 people sitting in a room trying to hear me speak about some personal finance topics. So I do not take it lightly that many people get my emails every week. Sometimes I forget that there's that many. To be honest, I still just think, hey, it's just like my mom and my grandma looking at this, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that adds to some more of the familiarity, but it is kind of a weird thing being on the internet and not being able to see the people that you're kind of interacting with. So that's very successful. I'm very happy with where we've ended up with that, and I am very expectant of continued success into the future. I thought 1,000 was going to be a stretch goal for this year, and it turns out it was not. It's very, very achievable, and now we're looking at going even further. So thank you for being a reader. Thank you for supporting the channel and the newsletters and everything, and I have a lot more planned. The newsletter, as I always have thought of it and will continue to think of it, is not something I do for anybody else. I do it for myself, to help myself learn, because if you can teach something or talk about something, then you can really know that you understand the subject. So that's my personal opinion, and so that's why I started the newsletter in the first place, and that's why I continue writing it, and that's why I don't really care about the numbers. So although it is very validating to have 1,000 subscribers, it's more important to do it because of the opportunity it provides me to learn, and if anybody else gets anything from it that's productive, that's just icing on the cake. So here's to many more subscribers, many more readers. I didn't even mention the all-time reads. I believe it's creeping up to 30,000, but it's definitely over 25,000, which is mind-blowing. So that's really, really incredible. But many more things on the horizon. Thank you for 1,000 newsletter subscribers, and yeah, see you next week.